Do you all hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, you will.
Perfect. All right. So I would say we start, and whoever wants to drop by can drop by. So thank you, Jamie, for being here today. It's a great pleasure to actually talk to you again with others who could follow the discussion. I think it's going to be very interesting for the listeners. So to start with, I would like you to tell us a bit about your family. Where do you come from? What are you doing? Yeah, how old is the son?
Cool. So, thanks for having me, Catherine. My name's Jamie. I'm a 33-year-old father of a young boy who's also called Jamie, which we refer to as wee Jamie up here. I live with my wife as well, and yeah, over the last sort of 3 years, our life's been flipped upside down. So originally, I worked for my father, who's based out in Spain. We had a water filtration business, so we did a lot of filtered water systems within offices, homes, all over Scotland. We had a pretty normal life. My wife worked in the bank, and then my son, wee Jamie, came along 3 years ago. At the worst time possible as well, because we had just sold our flat and we were staying with the in-laws, and we found out that my wife was pregnant. So it was a bit of a panic time for us to try and get a home. So fast forwarding a little bit, we moved into a new home. Just felt like life was starting. Both had reasonably good jobs, good future ahead of us, family home, really quite exciting times. So, as a bit of a background, that sort of covers, our family, just a pretty normal family, nothing too exciting,
Yeah. So Jamie is 3 years old.
Jamie's 3, yeah. So, no, sorry, Jamie's now 6. Jamie
he's
was, yes, he's 6. He was diagnosed with his condition, Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy, at 3 years old.
All right. Yeah, I thought he looked bigger.
So yeah, growing up with Jamie came along. It was quite exciting. We didn't know if we were having a boy or a girl, and you try and picture what your kid might look like. And when Jamie came along with bright red hair, which was something that it didn't cross our mind, even though the red comes from my wife. So Jamie came along. With quite a traumatic birth with Jamie. My wife and Jamie at the time caught sepsis. It was quite a difficult labour for my wife. We were in the hospital for, I believe, 28 hours, and she then ended up getting an emergency section.
Oh.
We were then in the hospital for just over a week before we got home. So it was quite a traumatic time. We got home, and things just sort of continued as normal. Jamie started to develop just like any other kid, but around about sort of 8 months, my wife did start to notice he was maybe struggling to maybe sit up, roll, just sort of standard milestones for children. So about 8 months, my wife did go and see about getting Jamie checked to see if there was any sort of underlying problems. And sort of thinking back now, that was, the start of, us on our journey. But, we continued. Jamie did start to walk. He started getting up off the ground. Albeit he was a little bit slower than, maybe his peers. And, the trips back to, the hospital, they just said, he's growing, he was quite a tall, a long baby at birth. He was 59 centimetres. So,
Crazy.
so yeah, you know, he was developing, but just maybe developing a little bit slower. And then sort of fast forwarding on a little bit, you know, he went into nursery. You know, he went all day with all his friends and ran about the small nursery playground, but he really did have, you know, a bit more difficulty getting up off the ground. So due to my wife's determination of constantly going back to the hospital, me probably being a little bit ignorant to it as a father, because I was just like, oh, there's nothing wrong with my boy. You know, my boy's fine. You know,
Yeah.
he's just growing up, you know. So I was maybe a bit blind to it, but thank God for my wife for constantly pursuing where, you know, we were never getting clear answers. And it got to the stage when Jamie was turning 3 and he was struggling to jump. My wife was like, no, I've had enough. So we went back to the hospital again, and out of just sheer luck, one of the doctors noticed Jamie's way of standing up off the ground, where he would touch his knees, and that's called the giver's maneuver. And that triggered something in that doctor to send us for a blood test, to see, you know, what was going on.
How old was Jamie then?
So Jamie was 3 at this stage. It was all around about sort of COVID time, coming to the end of COVID, and we got his blood took, and you know, my wife straight away went on to the research about the giver's maneuver, and you know, she was very frightened from what she came across. You know, Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy, something as a family we had never heard of. And even at that point, I've said, no, it's not possible. That can't be true. You know, still, but she was like, no, this could be the case. I says, it's not the case.
Did the
So
doctor tell you anything about it? Or did he just say, yeah, we're just going to check the blood and then we'll see? Or did you get any information when you went home?
at this stage, we had no information. It was just from what my wife picked up on.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we got the blood took and we got the results back in about 6 weeks' time.
Oh,
And
wow.
this was in March 2022. And what it was shown was Jamie's CK levels were through the roof. They were at 27,000.
Wow.
And even at this stage, they couldn't tell us, you know, what it was, because we would then need to go for genetic testing. And probably at this stage, I was even still in a little bit of denial, even though it was starting to sort of creep through. And it was maybe 6 weeks later from there, we then got the results. And at this time, it was still, you know, the end of COVID, and the hospital said, you know, only one of you can come to the hospital. And something still wasn't a little bit right. And, you know, when they turned around and said that we could both come, that's when it started to sort of sink in. You know, there's something really happening here.
Yeah.
So we attended the hospital and we went into a room with me, Jamie and my wife, and doctor just sat in a chair and just said, you know, your son has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And at this point, you know, we were both aware of what it was. I remember, you know, I actually feel a bit taken back. With Jamie just running about the room and, you know, just feeling that horrible feeling at the time, because, you know, we had no hope. You know, we were told we had nothing. We were given a leaflet and sent home. And on that leaflet, just had the stages of Duchenne. And sorry, I've not actually cried about this in a long, long time.
Oh,
So
no, that's completely
apologies.
fine. It's completely,
Um,
of course, it's like life-changing. Yeah.
yeah. So we were handed the leaflet and sent home. And on that leaflet, it had, your child will probably be in a wheelchair between 8 and 10. You know, they'll have respiratory and heart issues, you know, in their late teens, and a fatal outcome, not long after that.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I went home on my own. I told my wife and Jamie to go to our mum's, and right away that was the moment there for opening up the laptop and sort of trying to get my head around everything and see what we could do.
Wow. Wow. So thank you for sharing that with us. I feel that it's very hard to talk about it, and I'm always shocked, as we talked before already, that doctors can be so unsensitive. Like, oh yeah, your son has a diagnosis. You have a leaflet. Leave. Maybe it wasn't quite like that, but still, if you leave a discussion like that, you need someone to hold you. Like give you some support. So yeah, it's tough to hear that, really. Would you be able to describe for us a bit more what Duchenne muscular dystrophy means?
Yeah,
Because I think you're the pro here,
far from it.
unfortunately.
So it's a rare progressive muscle wasting disease, and it mostly affects young boys. So it's caused by a fault in the dystrophin gene. So the dystrophin gene has exons from 1 to 79, and there could be hundreds of different mutations for this. But when the dystrophin gene has that fault, no matter what the outcome, that's when the muscles start to weaken, and then it starts to then continue from the muscles to the heart to the lungs. There's because of this fault in the gene, you know that is the sort of outcome. The muscles just start to sort of regress. There's no protection of the muscles. When you're at a younger age, your body produces something called utrophin, which is why kids up to the age of maybe between 6 and 8 do develop. They do start to walk. They will maybe even run and do things that the normal kids can do, even though at a slower pace. And when the utrophin stops working, around the sort of 6 to 8, that is why you're expected to follow the leaflet that we were given. And at that stage, that is when your neurology team would look to put you on steroids.
Wow. Okay. Do you know how many patients there are? I mean, it's a rare disease. Do you have any statistics there?
Yeah, so it's around 1 in 5,000 boys that are diagnosed with
1 in 5.
1 in 5,000.
1,000. Oh, yes. Okay, sorry.
And normally it's a genetic mutation, and you'll find that the mother is a carrier of the gene.
Right.
But on the odd occasion, it could be a random mutation, and it turns out Jamie, my son, is a random mutation as well. So when you're diagnosed with Duchenne, the mother needs to go for genetic testing to make sure she doesn't carry the gene.
That would mean that if you get another kid, and that would be a boy, the chances are quite high to.
Yeah.
Did your wife get tested?
Yes, my wife got tested. So she's not a carrier. So
No.
Jamie was just a sort of random mutation.
Random mutation. Okay.
I think it's more 1 in 3,500 boys end up with Duchenne. I think it's more if you have a random mutation, it could be 1 in 5,000.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I would like to go back a little to where you started researching and finding a trial, because I remember it was quite a hassle to actually get where you are now. So let's go there, and then let's talk about what the study is actually doing for you. So would you like to tell us, how did you get into the study with all the barriers you had?
Yeah, so from the moment when I went home, opened the laptop, we found literally nothing, or investment news, or medical jargon, and at this point, I'm in full blown survivor mode. I'm probably not thinking straight, and all I can think about is, finding options for Jamie. So at this point, I emailed a company, because I seen that they had something available in America, but it wasn't even anything that was, suitable for Jamie. But I never even knew this, because I'm just a parent, a desperate parent at the time. So there didn't tend to be, anything there. So we went, through a couple of years of, going to neurology appointments, looking into sort of holistic therapies for Jamie, and trying to do everything, just to, protect him, and, keep him at, optimal health. We went and got some blood work done for Jamie, uh, diving deeper into his genetics and stuff. So fast forwarding on a little bit, a trial that was suitable for Jamie came up, but it was in America. And the stage and the place that we were at is, we don't have time. Duchenne, you do not have time. So we were willing to do everything we could to get on this trial. We applied for the trial. Everything looked fine. We had to then just get all our medical records from, the NHS, get these over to the trial, and everything was starting to move. We put our house on the market. We'd contact immigration lawyers. We were trying to navigate what, was something that wasn't there. We were trying to basically just create our own pathway to, getting the help that we could for Jamie. The trial ended up falling through, due to, I believe, maybe Jamie wasn't quite on his steroid long enough. We were maybe just short. So when it ended up getting a little bit quiet, and they told us that they were screening the last boy on the trial. So, our hearts sunk a little bit, and we were like, that had all just kind of been swept away from us. At this point, as a parent, I felt like I had went down every single avenue that I could to try and get help for Jamie. And while we were doing that, we thought, we could possibly create a pathway, for others. If we were able to map out our path doing this, it doesn't restrict people to, where you live, because, Duchenne's a worldwide problem. It shouldn't be determined on your postcode from where you are.
Yeah.
It certainly wouldn't have been easy, but, living with a diagnosis like Duchenne is not easy, so stumbling, fast forwarding a little bit after not getting on that trial.
Give me a sec. Did you get any support from your neurologists, from your doctors at home to find a trial, to get into the trial? Did they mention it? Did you just find it by yourself?
Clinical trials have never been mentioned to us at all, unless we've sort of brought them up. Everything seemed like that we had to sort of create our own options. We had to find these paths ourselves, because even if we were looking at, we could find trials, but maybe in the UK, or the pathways for trials were available possibly, for us in the UK, even though they were still complex. So yeah, we had to find this trial ourselves, and we were on every single registry that we could imagine for DMD trials, as we were quite willing to go wherever it would take.
All right, let's move forward. So US didn't work. How did it go from there? Why don't we still?
From that point, I started up DMD Access and Innovation, on the path of really starting it, to be honest, was for hope, and from doing that and becoming quite active on LinkedIn just about our story, because I couldn't find other families that had even been in a clinical trial. That it was all quiet. There was nothing. So I had to sort of create my own hope, and through that and making connections, I managed to find out about a trial that was starting closer to home, and it would have been a trial that we would be eligible for. So not through the traditional pathway of applying for a clinical trial, we managed to stumble into one through probably sheer luck, determination, and I might have not got there if I was sitting at home as just being a parent.
You're not just a parent. You're so much more than just a parent. You keep saying that. I really want you to understand that you are doing some amazing work, and I believe that people can get really inspired from you and learn a lot from you. To be resilient, to be determined, and so please. Find out that you're not just a parent. You are amazing, doing amazing jobs. Back to the clinical trial in the UK. I remember it wasn't that easy I remember you telling me about your barriers there. Could you tell us about that again?
Yeah, so just kind of extending on from, what I said there. So we managed to sort of stumble into the trial probably through sheer luck, which we then got invited down for screening. We went through screening process. We felt that we were fully in the guidelines for our clinical trial, and everything seemed great. We had a lift because we'd obviously been knocked from the trial in the US. We were now getting something, a bit closer to home, and, we were feeling more positive, than what we'd ever had. And then probably around 2 weeks before the trial, there was a bit of discrepancy within, us getting on the trial. And it just threw everything up into the air, where we weren't sure if we were going to start this trial or not. We were due to get a muscle biopsy in 2 weeks, and we had to get some more information, which was, becoming quite difficult. And it really sent us into a really distressed way. I've never experienced having panic attacks before, breathing problems. I was really struggling. Every time my phone had vibrated or rang, thought it was possibly an update, and I had 2 weeks of this. And after maybe about 5 days, of me really worried, I'd actually spoke to Keith at PRX Engage maybe 2 weeks before. This is when, I was really positive. I was looking at sort of building. I wasn't just willing to stop at a clinical trial. I was looking at building more. And, I spoke to Keith. Keith actually reached out to me, which was amazing. And I had a great conversation with him. And he was very supportive. And then I thought, it was about 10:30 at night. I goes, I don't know what it was. I was like, I need to text Keith about, I'm going through at the moment. And he texts me back, you know, maybe about 20 minutes later, and he says, "You okay for a call?" And at this point, I was like, I don't even know if I could speak. I was really that bad. And Keith phoned me, and within 10 minutes of speaking to Keith, because, you know, I'm a parent, and I'm only living as a parent. I don't know how anything else works within the clinical trial world,
Yeah.
within the medical world. And Keith's knowledge, you know, he didn't even have to share an overlay, you know, a lot with me. But having that one conversation with Keith just changed everything. And
Wow.
we still had, you know, maybe everything wasn't sorted, but I was sorted. My family was sorted. I was prepared for the next steps, no matter what it would have been. And being on that at that time, that was, you know, that was the hardest moment for my family since Jamie was diagnosed.
Yeah, I absolutely hear you, but it's amazing. I get goosebumps when you talk about Keith, and I think that's a very good way to show what PRX Engage actually does. Keith, do you want to share a few words here?
Wasn't going to, but okay.
I mean, no, sorry, I didn't prepare you. I just
okay. Firstly, you know, Jamie, and I think I've said this a million times now, epitomizes exactly what's needed. It's that agency to actually go and do things. And one thing I say to patients, I mean, Jamie, like many others, I'll speak to everyone. You know, he was in survivor mode, and a lot of people stay in that survivor mode and effectively let things wash over. But actually, you've got to take agency and act as your own advocate for yourself, for your family, and so on. So the way in which Jamie's approached this is like many other families as well. But I attended a meeting up in Manchester, Beacon for Rare Disease, a rare disease showcase, and there are incredible people out there who have a powerful voice, but then there are many who don't quite know how to use it. Jamie is one of those that not only knows how to use it, but does it in a sympathetic way. You know, our role at PRX Engage is to help lower the friction, to take away some of the anxiety that people like Jamie and the many others face. And that's why, you know, we've really focused in rare disease. It's just to try and help lower that friction and, you know, remove some of the anxiety. We're not going to remove everything. Everyone goes through lots of different emotions, but you know, Jamie said something to me. We spoke last night. If I can just help one person with the platform that he's developing, looking at pathways for DMD and for other patients, then I've done my job. And that epitomizes exactly what we look to do. It would be wonderful if we can help the world, but if we can help just one person on that pathway, then we know we're doing the right thing. So I appreciate everything you say. I think sometimes we just need someone else to talk to, or what is clear is that a lot of people do not have the knowledge they need, and therefore we have to support that. And that's what we do, is support by providing that knowledge so that Jamie could then go on and work out, okay, these are my pathways, these are my potential outcomes. We didn't do any of that, he did it.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. It's exactly what I think is people get overloaded with a lot of half information. So like when you're just a parent and you're not coming from the healthcare world at all or a clinical trial world, I can imagine that all the information you find, they are probably written in very specific terms, in not in lay language and not understandable. I see that very often. So actually, after research, you have more question marks than you actually learned. So I would describe this as one of the biggest barriers in healthcare, like in the bigger picture, not just in rare diseases. But to sum this up, what would you say were the biggest barriers for yourself when you were trying to find a clinical trial?
Well, I can give a couple of examples because I've
Yes.
applied for two, and one was finding the when I was applying for trials in the US, when I went through the the platforms that were available, was I'd ended up having to send 10 emails to sites that were hosting the trial. I had responses that hadn't even heard of the trial. I had some not respond at all, and then I had some that chasing up. I have an email that I looked back on not too long ago. It was saying it's been 3 days now and I can't get anybody to help me. So one, that was huge, and that was really eye-opening for me, because one, how many families give up on that, and two, they don't give up because they want to give up. It's because it's not there.
Yeah.
The other barriers, based on that, which obviously can't be helped due to regulations and things like that, but there's so many more trials available in different parts of the world, which then again is and when we speak about trials to health professionals and other people, it's referred to as a burden. It's that's too much hassle for your family to go and travel halfway through the world. And I always use this as an example, but if I was to go and tell my father I was going to move to America, he would say, "Wow, cool, son, what an amazing adventure that you're going on." But if you're going to do it for your son who's suffering a rare disease, is that not going to be a lot of hassle? People move around the world every day.
Yeah.
Life changes for everyone, and I find it so strange that that is one of the biggest barriers that you're from Scotland, you stay in Scotland,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
forced to stay there. So that being a huge barrier, and the next thing is probably the awareness around what trials are there and available to people. It's chaos. You're reading like pages of information that one, if survival mode is so huge, because I can bet you most families with suffering, going through a rare disease or anything, is struggling to process certain things that they maybe used to find. You're reading, a paragraph. It's difficult to read. So
Yeah.
that they are some of the huge barriers, and them just being accessible and easy to find.
Yeah. I find it as when you told me that that example with your, isn't it a burden to move to America or whatever, wherever, I found it stuck with me. I thought about that a long time after we chatted last time, because it is just what you say. Like, when I was 20, I moved to New Zealand just to experience it. And of course I would do that with my kids as well if they need it. And why would anybody think it's a burden? I mean, that's what parentship is, isn't it? You do whatever is needed to look after your kid and to do the best, get the best outcome possible. So actually, it kind of shocked me that you were hearing these kinds of comments. But then again, it's very interesting how different the views or the opinions are from people who are not involved. And then also, I thought about that you don't get the information from your GP, for example. And I have a lot of many years practice experience as a nurse, and I haven't had a lot of contact to clinical trials. So it is not in the mind. It is not a normal thing to send someone on a clinical trial. And I would like to kind of change that too, because especially for parents or for patients who don't have a different choice, like if you don't have another choice, then they have to have at least this choice, you know. But that is my opinion about it. Yes, I had a question. All this, the trial you are on now, it's not like next door. It's still in the UK, and you live in Scotland. It's, you said 8 hours drive to there.
Yeah, so we it's been a big sort of flip on our life as well. I'm currently trying to manage 2 businesses, although not very well, because my full focus is now on Jamie, which I would never step away from. It takes full priority for me. And yeah, so in 2 months, we've been away from home, I think, 14 times. Every sort of trip for us, due to how far it is an overnight stay, whether that's for one night or several nights. So yeah, navigating a trial, I wouldn't have it any other way. I really wouldn't have it any other way. I would, as we say there, I would travel to wherever I needed to be. It gives us a sense of, we're pretty educated parents in this because we have been forced to be, and we know that a clinical trial might not help. It might not work. We might be on placebo, but it gives us a sense of hope and direction in our journey.
So can you tell us on what kind of clinical trial? Obviously on a double-blinded or one-blinded?
I'm not actually sure on how much I can say on the.
Yes, true. Yes. Sorry. You said that. But how is Jamie now? You said to me that he climbed some stairs the other time. How is he now? Do you feel like the trial gives him something back? Did anything change? And how long has he been on the trial? I keep forgetting that too.
Yeah, so I mean, as I say, for the trial, I don't want to share any sort of insides or anything that's sort of happening on the trial. But as a perspective, as Jamie, as a 6-year-old boy, he's doing really well. He is such a strong boy, where he's probably dealing with, he's traveling all the time. He's in and out of school. He's missed so much school, and the educational side of school wasn't a big worry to me because we have bigger problems, at the moment. But you're also looking at the effects on the social side of, a 6-year-old kid, and, this is another thing, for another story for another day, but where trials could be more adaptive for, families for certain things, that I'm experiencing on this, with being on this trial. Jamie would then see more school. He would have more social time with friends, and even from the educational side of things. So Jamie's doing well, and
that's good to hear.
He's happy, and being happy is the most important thing in all of this. And Jamie's laugh hasn't changed since he was a baby. His laugh is exactly the same. And it just fills you with so much joy.
That's so sweet. I have another question before we go over to this one. All this traveling and all this stuff, it costs a lot of money and time, I guess, when you can't work. So you will have a financial burden. Do you get any support with that from your government, or from, I don't know, if you have an insurance, like a general insurance for everyone, a public insurance in Scotland? How does that work? Or do you have to pay it all by yourself?
Well, because of the trial, our flights, accommodation and expenses are covered. which sounds great, but then again, I've been away from home 14 times in 2 months. I'm not earning money in that time. Yes, certain families may do things differently, where one will go. Me and my wife can't. We can't. For our own mental health, we've both got to be with Jamie,
Yeah.
on this journey. So, yes, there's a huge financial burden in all this. But I always make sure that I do enough to get by, because all I need to do is get by. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Nothing else is important to me. Jamie's health is really the number one priority. But yeah, it is a huge financial strain as well.
So there is no support, like any social support you get from the government to cover the days where you can't work. I mean, you have to eat and you have to pay rent. We all have to pay our bills. Life gets more and more expensive. I completely understand that you can't send only one parent. So yeah, I wondered if you would get any support from anyone financially for your loss of work.
No, in the UK, you get like a disability allowance. Jamie receives that. So there's just the standard support that anyone with a disability would receive, but there isn't any extra support for being on a clinical trial
No.
and being away from home.
Well, I guess then it's good for you to get a job where you can do home office a lot. So you can actually take your work with you to the hospital.
Well, I'm having to try and sort of change the way I'm a guy on the tools. I travel all over Scotland.
Yeah. Oh,
Doing work, so it's not something I can really do from home. But because of the situation that we're in, that's another thing. You have to think of other ways. So I'm looking at trying to do something a bit different from selling things online and possibly getting other engineers to do my work.
yeah.
It's another adaptation and something else that you need to think of, because your life really does, change. But,
Yeah.
a lot of things about this new life, I call it a new life because it is a new life for the three of us. It's not all bad. We've really developed as people and seen another side to the world, and know who the real good people are in life. So as much as this is probably one of the hardest blows that any family can take, I believe that me personally, I've became a better person. And I'm actually connecting and speaking with people that I'm interested in speaking to as well.
Yeah. Well, that sounds perfect. I think you're a wonderful person. You're welcome. Would you like to tell us what a patient advocate does? What is it? How can we imagine that?
Well, see, for me,
Sorry.
as you keep saying, that you're not just a father, I am just a father, and I maybe looked at as more than a father, but to me, being a father to Jamie is more important than. I feel like I have a role of my own, to be honest. I don't look at don't put myself into the category of anyone. As I say, I'll always say I'm just a father, and I will speak and voice how I feel about our journey, and it probably does tie into the sort of patient advocate role, but it's all about, for me, everyone should self advocate no matter what, because you know you have to. And for the likes of Duchenne, the system labels it as one disease, but as I spoke earlier on about the mutations, there's hundreds and thousands of different mutations, which means different treatments that are available. You know, that some treatments might be only available for, you know, a certain percent of the boys, and these treatments might only be available in different countries.
Yeah.
So for me, advocating for Jamie, my son, and advocating for all the other families that feel the same as me. So I would say that I'm advocating not just for Duchenne, I'm advocating for pathways and hope for
Yeah.
families. So I think in any sort of rare disease or any disease out there, there might not be a clear pathway for you. You know, everybody deals with their diagnosis differently. I could have went into my neurologist and accepted the fate of the leaflet I was given and went home. And that is absolutely fine. There is no right or wrong for how you advocate for yourself. But yeah, that is how I look at myself as an advocate, as a parent.
And how do you do that? How do you reach people? Is it only LinkedIn, or do you have any other channels, which actually also kind of leads us to the next question? I know you found a new channel. Yeah, tell us, how do you reach people?
So from starting up DMD Access and Innovation, before we were hit with the trial, I was always looking to sort of create something. So that brought me to LinkedIn, and that's how I sort of connected with more people within the sort of professional field, and, you know, maybe more like-minded patients, and, you know, that I always struggled to find. I always thought LinkedIn was, you know, professional sort of, well, it is a professional platform. We have Wee Jamie's Journey. That again, you know, that we have Wee Jamie's Journey on Facebook, and that was designed again for hope. We have nothing, with no direction, that was suitable for us. So we start Wee Jamie's Journey. From then, you know, we had around sort of 3,000 people sort of following our journey. They were getting behind our journey, and being really supportive. And that, you know, again, sort of built hope. But we've just sort of, between Wee Jamie's Journey and DMD Access, has kind of now brought me to bringing it all together. And, you know, hopefully looking to sort of build something, you know, that can help with families that are in situations like mine.
Yeah. What about the newsletter we saw on LinkedIn you were involved in? Tell us about it.
So through meeting Keith and, you know, speaking with Keith backwards and forwards, I've ended up growing a good relationship with Keith. Probably both because our football teams aren't very good. It's kind of sort of, you know, developed, and Keith had asked me if I would like to get involved with doing a patient newsletter with two other patients as well, who are both incredible people. And it was kind of a different experience for me. Kind of wasn't too sure what to expect. And when you do look to expect something, Keith kind of got us all together and just went, right, this is what you're doing. Like, there's a newsletter, do what you want with it. You know, I'm not sort of throwing him under the bus here, but he gave us direction. Basically just wanted to amplify, you know, he'd obviously met with us all and seen what we were doing, and Keith would probably be better explaining this. I'm just going with what I think. And, you know, he sort of left us to our own devices to try and sort of bring our patient voice forward, and connect with people who are in similar situations, and bring their voices to the newsletter. And it's a newsletter that's been brought out every 2 weeks, under the name Every Voice Matters. It's became something that we thought might have, between the guys doing it, quite sort of casual, but it's, we've all really bought into it, and it's been amazing to connect with other people that I've met over, the years on our journey, and bringing their voices to light as well, where they're getting to sort of feature in the newsletter, and highlighting, the change that I like to call it, the change that we're striving towards now, and bringing all voices together.
It sounds wonderful, really. I signed up directly when I saw it, so I'm looking forward to getting the first one. How many newsletters have you been sending out already? Is it just a new project?
It's a new project, so we've done 2 at the moment, and we're working on our third at the moment.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to this. So
Catherine,
I think
can I just add?
Yes.
Because I think Jamie and Kayla and Dell, the team of 3 who are putting this together, the first time I see the newsletter is when you see it, i.e. when it's released. I have no involvement in what goes into it. They decide the content, they decide the direction, they do all the work. They'll come to me and ask me questions along the way. I don't know where it's going to be used or if it's going to be used. But I think, what Jamie, Kayla, and Dell bring is an authenticity that they reach into communities to speak to other people like themselves, and also others not like themselves, to learn more. And that's the key to this. It's not something directed by someone in industry like me who would maybe navigate a particular way. It's what do people living with a condition or living with someone with a condition want to know. So thank you, Jamie, for, I know it's turned into a job that you didn't expect.
I actually asked Keith for help on something once, and he told me no.
I think I see Keith here like someone who opens doors for you guys, and gives you like a opportunity to share the word. And I really love that spirit, and that's also why I really like to work with Keith also on the book we are writing, because it's so meaningful, and it gives I think it gives a lot of hope to people, and just clear up some questions. So and to meet people like you and hear stories like yours really helps people to actually just understand. And I hope the stakeholders on the other side, on the clinical trial side, they read your stories, they hear your stories, and they learn from it, because there's a lot of improvement necessary. And but there's also a lot of cool things happening. So I don't always want to blame like the bad bio or life science. It's not. It's just the getting people together, and that's what Keith is there for, and others, to help getting the people together. I would like to ask the others who are here with us if you have any questions to Jamie or Keith.
I've got a question for you, Jamie.
No, Keith.
Just one question for Dell.
No, sure.
And it's look, I know your story. We speak a lot by text. We've never met face to face, but I think I speak to
Next
Jamie
week
as much as I speak to my wife. Sometimes. If you could give yourself at the start of the journey one piece of advice from where you are now, if you were to go back, what would it be?
Definitely to breathe. Definitely just breathe. And it's hard because anyone would deal with their diagnosis differently, because they don't actually know that, you know, the first, I mean, my whole life it's been normal. My life's no different to anyone else's. But for 2 years, 3 years, it being in that survival mode, it's probably damaged, you know, a couple of really important years with my child. That, you know, I'm there, but am I there? You know, be a dad. Just be a family. It's so important.
Yeah, try to enjoy the time anyway, right? I can imagine that this is very hard when you're in focusing mode.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the hardest thing, but that is due to the chaos that's out there. So but that's what we're working on now. You know, is better pathways for people, clarity and easy language, and I'm hoping with that being there, you know, that families in my situation can breathe.
Yeah, I think that there is, or at least it feels in my life like there is a movement, there is something happening, and I'm really happy to, be somehow involved in it, and even if it is just to give you a voice here in MedTalks. With this said, I really, really want to thank you for letting us into your life, sharing all your inspirational stories with us, and going through this hard time to explain again what happened. I really, really value that you share that with us. Now it's almost Christmas. I'm a Christmas girl. Sorry, Keith, for this picture. I wish you all, you who are here, a Merry, Merry Christmas, a wonderful time, and just enjoy the time with your family. And thank you guys for being here and sharing the word about this topic.
Thank you, Catherine.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, Keith. I will stop recording now. All right.